So if you have any questions, we want to kind of keep this fairly informal as well. So there is time for a Q&A at the end, but we're probably going to whiz through the slides quicker, so we'll probably have more time for questions, but we have got a little bit that we want to be interactive whilst we're going through as well. So we work for Tempo, and we're going to chat to you about how we create pathways into volunteering for everyone. So just kind of talking you through. So sharing, we've recently done quite a bit of work actually around our strategy and our vision, mission and purpose. And we very much see that we've been working within Wales and England for the past 15 years, kind of creating opportunities for more people to get involved in their communities, often taking quite a community development and assets-based approach to engaging people on their volunteer journey, but really supporting people to see themselves as having kind of real skills and strengths, and supporting them on that pathway into volunteering. So we often see people who haven't ever volunteered before engaging in volunteering as a result of receiving time credits for their time, and we'll talk to you a little bit about those pathways in a moment. But we take a whole community approach, so working with both citizens and services and community groups, but also the local businesses, and looking at how do we use time credits to enable everyone to come together to give an hour ultimately. So whether you're a business that's opening up, I don't know, an hour's worth of swimming, or you're a community group or a service that's creating an hour's worth of volunteering, to that community member that's going to share their skills and time and give their hour. It's looking at how time credits is that golden thread that runs through it all to enable the many to get involved. So the model is very simple. So you give an hour of your time, and we work with a really wide range of community groups and services that create lots and lots of different ways that people give their time, and a huge variety of the types of volunteering on offer, really, from very local grassroots community opportunities to like more formal opportunities that happen in charities across the UK and in the areas that we work. And then alongside that, we work with a whole range of different business partners that create opportunities for people to redeem their time credits. So from swimming to leisure centres to bowling, and we'll talk a little bit more about those recognition partners and how we build that network later on. But people give an hour of their time, they receive a time credit. It's a digital time credit, so they receive those time credits through their digital account with Tempo. Rolf mentioned the work that we've done with Team Kinetic to enable our platforms to speak. So organisations can access issuing the time credits through their Team Kinetic accounts, but we would also create a Tempo account to enable those platforms to talk to one another. But people receive their time credits through their digital account, and then they can search both opportunities for them to earn time credits, so more volunteering opportunities, but also opportunities for them then to redeem them against those different activities across our national network. So thinking specifically about pathways to volunteering. So as I said, we work very much kind of in the community, looking at how do we work with a whole range of community groups and services to support more people to get involved. So really working with those organisations to see both the people that they're there to serve, but also their volunteers, to kind of see their skills and strengths and enable them to help to kind of shape and design how our community groups and charities and services should be delivered. So we do lots of work with community groups and services around kind of co-design, co-production, how they use time credits to kind of help to shape the services and opportunities that they deliver. We also work at that community level, enabling people to get involved in local causes and opportunities, and really getting people involved in what matters to them locally. And often that can be the start of their journey, whether that's getting involved in a sort of litter pick or a community planting workshop right in the heart of your estate, to then starting to volunteer your time at a local organisation or service. We also, through earning time credits, what happens is that people is also then able to go out and access our recognition network and try opportunities that will impact and support their mental health and well-being, and trying the things that they wouldn't otherwise normally get involved in. I'm so sorry, I've got 2 dogs that have decided to now is the time to bark. So bear with me, I'm going to shut the door and then you won't hear them. They're quiet all day until the very point that you want them to be quiet. The great thing about our platform is used a lot in services, because those service providers and support workers use the platform as a real tool to support the people that they're working with, to help them to identify volunteering opportunities, to talk to them about their skills and strengths, but also to then support them to go out and use those activities and experiences that are going to impact on their health, well-being, confidence building, education and learning. So really using the platform as a tool to support people on that journey, and that journey often then takes people into new and different volunteering opportunities. Again, the platform really helps people to see the variety of opportunities on offer, and people and through conversations with support staff, people can kind of see, or community workers, people can see, how their skills can be utilised in the community. So really supporting people to start that journey. So we just thought we would kind of test the room, really, just thinking about how do you support volunteer pathways, how do you engage new volunteers, and how do you promote opportunities?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Yeah, okay. I'm actually involved in a voluntary organisation myself at the moment, which is just run by volunteers. And the most effective way of recruiting other volunteers is to just talk to them personally and to explain them the sort of role we want them to do, and then allow them to talk through it and decide if that's what they want to do. So the personal approach has been really important. And I think more generally in the research I've done on volunteering in sports clubs, that's been the most effective way and the most common way of recruiting people into this type of volunteer-led organisation.
Brilliant, thanks, Jeff. I can see Jessica has asked about the benefits. We're going to take us through and talk about the benefits and actually what does time credits mean in a second. We kind of wanted to gauge what people are already doing at the moment. So it's good to kind of just hear from you what you're already doing. Great. So so some people are already using sort of different reward and recognition opportunities, access to online courses, references, opportunities. Okay, so if I continue sharing my screen. Okay, so obviously I said we've been working in Wales and England for the last 15 years, and every year we we undertake a survey that looks at the impact that time credits has on the people, on both the organisations that use them to support both their volunteer recruitment, but also retention, and also to support that diversifying the volunteer base, so engaging people who wouldn't normally get involved in their community. And this year, over 1,500 people responded to our impact survey in July. So this is very much hot off the press. We haven't launched this yet, but 83% of those respondents had earned time credits, and interestingly, 40% of those respondents had never or only occasionally given time before receiving time credits. So time credits are really helping to support people onto that pathway and supporting those who had very occasionally given time or never volunteered before. It was interesting to see that 20% of respondents are volunteering more than 5 hours a week. And 18% of them had started volunteering more as a result of earning time credits. we're really interested, and we're always very keen to see the impacts that time credits have on both people's kind of health and well-being, on them affording to do more things. So I think especially important during the cost of living crisis, we see that people are accessing things that they otherwise couldn't afford to do, but also real improvements in their future outlook, feeling more connected to the wider community, but also around kind of skills and employability, and very much starting that volunteering pathway will also support them into developing their skills and knowledge, and then into the workplace. And we know that many of these impacts happen in volunteer programs up and down our country, and what we see that when somebody is also earning time credits, there are some additional benefits as a result of that. So it's the volunteering plus the time credits that has that significant impact. So the types of charities and community groups that we currently work with are really, really broad and diverse. I said that we work with very grassroots community action, up to those sort of much more organised and formal volunteering opportunities. But the sort of diagram on the left gives you a sort of a little insight into the different types of opportunities that people are sharing their time with, and addressing through the time they share. And then on the other side of the screen is the impacts that time credits are having on those organisations that are working with us. So over 100 organisations have told us that 93% of them use time credits to recognise and reward their volunteers. And as a result of that, 72% have recruited more volunteers, and then they're seeing those benefits around improved health and well-being of volunteers, improved retention, increasing the diversity, so how supporting them to recruit new and different volunteers that have previously volunteered with them before, but also seeing the kind of skills and capabilities of their volunteers growing. And one of the things that we also do when we build networks in areas is bring those organisations and groups together to enable them to share learning and share ideas. And how do we collaborate to kind of make a difference in our communities? So we see groups and organisations then, working together to address the needs in their local area, and 72% have improved their ability to raise funds. So these have been really positive outcomes that we've seen over the last 12 months. So once somebody earns a time credit through, sharing their skills, giving their time through a whole range of different services and organisations, the sort of next stage in the model then is for them to redeem those time credits. So we work with currently with over 500 venues across England and Wales, and they're things from a trip down the Thames to a visit to the Tower of London, to paying for your car parking in Chorley, to doing an adult education course, or having a swim at the leisure centre, or taking your children to soft play, a whole range of different experiences. Recently, we've brought on a national partner called Tickets for Good, which some of you may have heard. So that's enabled people that are earning time credits to access a whole range of different events and sports activities up and down our country. We've recently started a new relationship with the National Trust in Wales, and we're working with them nationally in Wales and looking at how we now roll that out into England. So we have many different partners, and that kind of diversity across the network is really, really important, because it's about having something that appeals to everyone. We build those networks very much to target the work that we're doing. So we're funded by a whole range of different partners, often around a set of KPIs. So what we're looking to build that network to do, whether it's to diversify the volunteer base, or build community resilience, or improve the health and well-being in our communities, we'll have a set of targets that we're looking to achieve, and we will build that network through our current funded model to deliver those outcomes. And then we'll build those relationships with businesses very much to support the outcomes that we're looking to achieve. But also, also talking to the volunteers that are involved in that program. Where is it that they would like to use their time credits? Where would they like to visit? You know, what are the things that they're looking to do? And then we'll approach those partners. And it's about building a partnership with a business. So it's also looking at how could time credits help them to address their kind of CSR goals, what they're looking to achieve. You know, many theatres are looking to diversify their audience base. So we look at how time credits could support them to deliver some of their key outcomes. And we develop a sort of unique partnership with each partner. So it's not a one size fits all approach. It's about working with those individual partners, both at a local and a national level, to ensure that time credits work for them. And I'm going to pass to Brian now, who's going to talk us through some of the impacts.
Thanks, Rachel. I was replying to a message, but I'll come back to replying to that in a minute in the chat. So, yeah, so Rachel mentioned sort of earlier how sort of we conduct sort of annual evaluation to sort of learn insights and about how our programs are performing, the differences it's making on sort of the community groups and the services that we work with and on the volunteers themselves. And we kind of split this into sort of 5 different areas where we look at health and well-being, future outlook, skills and employability, supporting others and the wider community, and I think I already said future outlook. I did. So I've said that one twice. So I'm just going to talk us through a little bit of that. And what I always say is that when we do our annual evaluation, it is centered around sort of time credits, but it really recognises the thousands of partnerships that we have across England and Wales. These are all part of different projects that involve like lots of different community organisations, businesses, volunteers, commissioning services, who all play a role to sort of make this happen. And in the last year, we've got some really kind of sort of encouraging results in our sort of annual evaluation, particularly around health and well-being. So in our health and well-being sort of section, if you will, we found that sort of over half of the people who earn time credits have found that they've been more able to manage their health and well-being since being involved with the project, and they feel healthier overall. Over 60% of people had reported improved mental health. But it's not just about the statistics for us. We've got some quotes that we've sort of dropped in here as well, but we've heard some like lovely stories. So we've had a volunteer who at the age of 63 wanted to learn to swim, and she could afford the swimming lessons, but she wouldn't have been able to go swimming twice a week on top of that. But by being involved with her local community group, she'd earn time credits, and then she could go swimming to practice what she was learning in her lessons as well. And in her words, that was a game changer for her, which helped him with that. We spoke to a volunteer who was a carer for her mum, and earning time credits allowed her to go and get some sort of time out and look after her own mental health. And again, she did that through swimming, but it meant that she could manage her mental health. It sort of managed her physical health. And then she felt that she was in a better place where she was then caring for her mum as well. So it had massive impacts on not just the individual, but her family as well. When we're looking at sort of supporting the others and the wider community part of what we do, one of the key themes that comes out of a lot of our projects is it really allows people to feel like they've got a skill and they've got something to contribute to community. And that's been a kind of, we've always had a high feedback rate on that. So people feel more confident from being able to give to the community, being able to use their skills, and they're feeling more like they're part of something and they're contributing. It's also nice that almost half people who work with time credits, who might have been going through a service, or they've got different kind of sort of conditions that they're living with, they've been able to engage and support other people that have gone that. So people are sharing their kind of lived experiences and their life experience with that. So can you just look it on one, please?
Of course. Yeah.
So we also like to look to the future, and time credits does play a role in supporting that. We have lots of volunteers who either sort of upskill their skills or learn new skills by being involved with community groups and different services. They might do sort of different courses. They might use the time credits to get involved with some adult learning. And we've actually had, so it was around about 60% of people, no, 40% of people who had actually used those skills to go on and get another job. I think also, whilst we're in the cost of living crisis, sort of 40% of people said they can afford to do more things, and people report how they can do more things with their family. They can take the kids to places that they might not normally be able to. They can take up new hobbies, or they can revisit hobbies that they had when they were younger, which again, we see that as a multiplying effect to all the amazing sort of benefits you get from volunteering. When you pull this all together, we see it as a multiplier effect to support that. And then jump onto the next one, please, Frank. I'll just touch on the skills of employability. So also as part of that, when we've been working particularly on projects that are supporting sort of social care services or different NHS Foundation trusts, we found that 22% people have reported that they've had less need to be involved with the social care services from being part of a project. So it's having that wider impact on, rather than just the individuals, but the communities that they're involved with as well. Okay, and then just again, please, Rach.
Lovely.
Okay, so this year we've been kind of working with Team Kinetic, so Team Kinetic have a fantastic sort of volunteer management platform, as you all know, and we've got a platform which is aimed around sort of earning and the using of time credits. We've had a number of partners who work with both Team Kinetic and ourselves, and there's been 2 lots of sort of data entry that's been required. So we've spent a lot of time this year building an API. So the Team Kinetic platform now speaks to the Tempo platform, and we're currently just testing that with some of our mutual partners, and we've got some other partners that are due to go live with that. And what that means now is that you can carry on using your Team Kinetic platform in the way that you normally would do, but you could also allocate opportunities where your volunteers can earn time credits, and once they take part in those activities, your volunteers could then claim those time credits, and they'll be able to use those time credits within the Tempo network. Now, both our platforms talk to each other, and you will have an account for both of them, but anything that gets put into the Team Kinetic platform, all the relevant data is then inputted automatically into the Tempo one, or if someone logged into the Tempo platform and used that one, it would update it in Team Kinetic as well. So now you can benefit from the Team Kinetic platform and use Tempo time credits just through your Team Kinetic platform. So we're kind of in the early data testing it. We're testing it with some partners at the moment, but we're very we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to make that work, and we're kind of at the point now where it's being tested and about to go live. Thanks, Rachel.
Brilliant. And so on to sort of our final slide, really looking at kind of key information about time credits. So these are, I suppose, some of our rules. Everything needs some good practice guidelines, and these are ours, really. So time credits, and these are often I suppose we refer to these often as our FAQs, because these are the things that people often will ask us. So time credits have no cash value, and therefore they don't impact on state benefits. It's a time-based system, so people give an hour of their time, they earn a time credit, and then they redeem that time credit against an hour's worth of an activity or experience. So they never have a cash value, and I think that the really important point about that is that that the value of those experiences is forever changing. So it could be that they're going to a coffee morning in a local community centre that actually the time credit has no real cash value at all, or they're going to watch a show at the Millennium Centre, and you know, those tickets would have a higher cash value, but because that value, you can't pin that value down, they never ever have a cash value and therefore don't impact. So we always talk about them being based on time. It's our Tempo platform that enables organisations to distribute time credits to the volunteers, and then the volunteers to use those time credits with our partners. So obviously through if you have a Team Kinetics platform already, your relationship will be initially through that Team Kinetic platform because they will work together. But the earners will come onto the time credit platform to be able to search opportunities with our partners, and then they'll see how to redeem them then via our platform. So it's the administrator that allocates the time credits to the individuals as a thank you for their time. We also through our platform, we realise that not everybody's online, and we need to ensure that we continue to support people who are digitally excluded. So we have a sort of membership card option. So if anybody's a non-digital user that's volunteering in a community group or service, we would issue a membership card that would have their unique ID on them, and their time credits would still go into their account, but they would be able to use them by calling. And we have regular updates that go out to community group leads and newsletters with an index with all of the partners, so they are then able to print those off for those non-digital volunteers to still enable them to benefit from sort of earning and using time credits. Currently there's no time limit on when people can use their time credits. We often see people saving them up for school holidays or special times. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier, which is actually really valued by volunteers, is that you can gift your time credits onto others. So we see lots of volunteers earning time credits and gifting them to family members, especially to grandchildren, to go off and have nice experiences, or taking their grandchildren to do things when they come and stay. The gifting works incredibly well, and people are able to gift through our platform, and then it means that the person that's been gifted to can go on and search how they use them. The other great thing about that is it can often support somebody's pathway into volunteering, because obviously once they're on the platform, they can also search those opportunities for where they can volunteer in their local community. So it can be a great way of engaging people in volunteering as a result of receiving some time credits first, and then looking, oh well, how could I get involved? There's no age restriction. We've worked a lot in schools, especially in Wales. We've worked with school children volunteering and earning time credits and having access. I recall a young person in a village called Llanelli who'd been volunteering through the youth service. He was a young person that wasn't engaging in the sort of traditional school life, and was being supported by youth provision, and they'd got these young people out in the community and were volunteering, and this young person had received some time credits for some of the work that they'd done, some of the volunteering that they'd done, and he had used those time credits to book a campsite. We had a campsite that was part of the network, and you could pay for the camping with your time credits. And at that time, you could rent a tent with your time credits as well. And he actually paid for his family to go and have a camping holiday. That family had never had a holiday before. So he was, you know, the sense of, you know, what he felt as a result of kind of, you know, getting time credits for the time that he gave, and being valued for that time, and then being able to use those time credits to do something really, really special for his family, was just, yeah, incredible. So as I've said, they can be gifted, and we work with a whole range of different partners and community groups, but we obviously ensure that they have a certain set of standards, and we would work with them to welcome them into the network. So it's time for some questions, but I'm gonna come back to the room because I can't actually see anyone whilst I'm sharing my screen. Brilliant. Brilliant. Anybody have any questions for us?
Yeah, so I've been answering some of the
Lovely.
questions in the chat, but it might be worth just bringing them up. So if I just sort of bring them up. So the first question was kind of talking about volunteering and maybe tax implications, and a bit of a fear of rewarding volunteers, any implications they may have. So I put a little bit in the chat about that, but we have done quite a lot of work legally to understand the role that time credits plays and where that kind of fits in with this. And the key takeaways from it is that time credits are viewed as a gift. So there's lots of things that we put in place to make sure that time credits wouldn't be seen as an alternative to potentially a salary or a different way to live. So you couldn't earn time credits and be able to do all your weekly shopping and pay your rent and pay for all your bills. So it's not viewed as that. Generally, the time credit offers are generally seen as kind of low value, and low value a little bit is around about the cost of them, as in it's not a £10,000 card that somebody's getting with time credits, but the things where there's spare capacity. So it's not something that's of high value to that organisation, and things that are of a higher value are limited. So if something we perceived as that is a high ticket item, that's not something that somebody could use as a secondary income to earn those. But we have done quite a lot of legal work around that. A lot of it to do is about the relationship status with the community group or the organisation that the volunteer is part of, and that it's a volunteer status rather than an employment status. And I'm sure you've all got guidance around that already. But we could talk about that one probably for an hour on its own. So I'll move on to the next question. Jeff had asked about how many people have kind of got involved with volunteering because of time credits, and the possibilities that if someone earns time credits, would they continue to volunteer if they weren't earning time credits, and does that make any difference with altruistic volunteering? So I dropped some notes below, but Rachel, do you want to answer that one?
Sorry, say that again. Sorry, I jumped down, was reading another one then.
Yeah. So we're just talking about
around the altruism.
About altruism and the number of people that have got involved with volunteering through time credits as the first protocol. Yeah.
So I might have said already. So Brian and I have both worked for this organisation for. I've been here for 10.5 years. Brian for 7 or 8 years, and it's been interesting to see the landscape change over the last 10 years, and that the conversations that I had 8-9 years ago with some of the councils of voluntary services, those third sector infrastructure organisations, compared to having conversations now. I think that time credits support different people on that volunteer journey, and it's a tool that can support different people to get involved, and it's choosing the right place to use it. And with the right types of people, it will incentivize some, but it won't incentivize others. I've seen people who have volunteered previously prior to receiving time credits go on to volunteer more as a result of receiving time credits, or actually, more about kind of having opportunities. So those people who perhaps have, are very committed to giving their time in their community. but are now receiving time credits, and the time credits enable them to do things that they wouldn't otherwise ever do. And it's those things that have an impact on their health and well-being, and you know, taking their grandchildren to do things, and opening up opportunities for experiences that they otherwise wouldn't do. And that helps to sustain them, build their resilience, keep them volunteering, and keep them engaged. So you know, it's thinking about where and when to use them is key, and we have those conversations with the organizations that we work with to think about the best places. So it's, again, as I said earlier, with working with the recognition partners, it's not about a blanket approach. It's about you know, developing those relationships and developing those opportunities alongside you.
Cool. Just had a couple of hands come up, so if we just come to Robin first.
Oh, thank you. So we're working with you guys at the moment at Newham Council, which is great. Hello. I just wanted to say, really, rather than a question, just about me using I've got 22 Tempo time credits now. One really good effect that I found is that I log my hours because I want those Tempo time credits. So we found people have been talking to us about wanting to log their hours already, and we have not even launched it yet on our system. So it's a really good, I just wanted to say it's really great for us, and like me personally, I am always logging my hours to get those credits. Like, I wasn't logging them before I knew about Tempo time credit, and it was only then, once I realized that I could get that out of, that I've done it personally in my own volunteering time. So that is a really great benefit to people like us on the other side of management as well.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Robin. We haven't paid Robin to come and say that today. And we love, you know, I think for us, kind of getting our impact survey back every year, and talking to people that are using time credits across our networks. That's what we love to hear about, is what is the impact that time credits are having on you, and actually incentivizing people logging their hours is an important factor that probably we've not even considered, because obviously previously the organizations that we work with, people are already logging the hours because they're issuing time credits. So actually, as we begin to roll this out into new places, it'll be interesting to see how that incentivizes people actually telling you the hours that they've volunteered.
Cool. Just got a hand up from Jeff as well.
This is picking up on a couple of points that Brian brought up for me commenting here, which was the relationship between time credits and volunteer motivations. So, I mean, do you think the fact you're offering time credits sort of changes the motivation of altruism? Because people think, well, I'll do it if I get the credit, but I'm not going to do it again if I don't get a credit. And then, or it could go the other way. It could get people involved in volunteering that wouldn't have done so otherwise. And then they feel they're getting some rewards out of volunteering, and they go and volunteer somewhere else. Well, they don't get a time credit, so it could go either way. And then, sort of related to that, in your organisations that you work with, do they have the same time credits offered across everybody in the organisation for the same stuff, or do they target on particular people? So they target on particular people. Someone that's not getting offered the time credit is going to think, well, I'm doing the same thing as he is over there, but I'm not getting the time credit.
Brian, are you just going to jump in there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So there's lots of different things that we need to discover before we kind of set up how we're going to use time credits with an organisation. So in some cases, organisations will use time credits for a particular activity or for a particular time slot that might be difficult to sort of attract volunteers to. And they're trying to funnel people towards a certain activity or a certain need, and they'll sometimes use the time credits to do that. So generally, though, we find that sort of organisations that use time credits, so they will make it available for most of the activities that they're doing. There isn't any cases where an organisation will specifically not allow people to earn time credits. They'll get the same opportunity as anybody else to earn them. I probably couldn't feed back just off the top of my head on if someone was earning time credits at one group and then they were volunteering at another group, whether they would stop volunteering there because they didn't earn time credits. The general sort of feedback that we get that is more sort of conversational and anecdotal feedback is that We work with a lot of people who hadn't really considered volunteering, and they've got involved through a Tempo time credit program, and they've then seen the benefits of volunteering, the benefits of being able to sort of contribute to something and support others. And we do see it's a nice step into volunteering, particularly for people that are a bit undecided. Some of the things that we're keen to kind of look at sort of this next year is kind of in some reports that have come out this year, the suggestions that people are kind of thinking about, can I justify my time to do this, like this volunteering or an activity? And does an incentive play a role in that? Because then they could justify it, because it means if I do that, I can then go and do this sort of socially as well. So we'll be interested in kind of looking at that sort of over this next year. But that was only sort of, it was from a report that's come out this year that we'd seen that. So we'll be interested to find out a little bit more about that. And got I'm not sure who it is, but Volunteer Glasgow's got the name up, the hand up, sorry. I think you might have frozen, so we'll come back to you in a minute, and should we have a quick read through the other questions, Rachel?
Yes. So some of the questions in there, Clara's asked, can volunteers opt out of receiving time credits if they really felt they didn't want them? Absolutely, Claire. They can opt out, or they can choose to gift them to another organisation or to someone else. And we do lots of gifting campaigns as well, where we did a great thing in Wales previously, where we ran an appeal for people to donate their time credits to take a group of guys to the theatre to watch. It was around a loneliness and isolation project, and we got a load of donated time credits, and we took this group of older gentlemen to the theatre and used that as the opportunity to then talk to them about how they could then volunteer and earn time credits in their own right. And many of them, it was, first experience for some of them, it was the first experience going to the theatre, and for others, it was the first time in many years. So we do lots of work around kind of gifting, but people don't have to receive the time credits. There were some other ones in here that I picked up around the work that we're doing in Newham and Waltham Forest right now. Both of those, whilst they were established networks, they were very much at the start of the journey as well with us. So they're probably not as established as some of our other networks, but you can absolutely talk. We've been talking about, we're launching our survey and our new strategy next month, and we'll be putting an online event on to share that and having some of our sort of stories from our other providers. So I think that would be a great opportunity to come and listen to other people who are further along the journey with time credits, and they could share some of that with you. So we'll get back in touch. We'll share it with Chris, and Chris can circulate when we plan that event as well, and hopefully some of you can join us there. Is there anything else in there?
Should we just go back to see if Volunteer Glasgow's connections come back in?
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes.
Sorry, I was having problems there. I put it in anyway, but I'm wondering if you're working with any other volunteer centres at the moment, and how we could maybe use it in Glasgow. I think you might have spoken with my colleagues. I went away on maternity leave, so I don't know if this is any further forward in Glasgow. I'll let you answer.
Thanks, Tracy. Yes, we've been talking to David
right
in Glasgow, and we do work with some of the volunteer centres in other parts of the UK, with some of them issuing time credits to volunteers. And I think I said earlier about how the landscape has changed. And especially around altruism and how you use reward and recognition and incentivization for volunteers. I think there's been big changes over the last 10 years in my time kind of working at Tempo. And we have more conversations with voluntary centres now of seeing time credits as a tool that can be used to support people to get involved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Rach just had a question in, which was, is it usually smaller charities that use time credits? And then we've had a couple of questions about costs as well, which is if we leave our details in the chat, it'd probably be better to pick that up separately, because our the way that we price our programs vary depending on kind of where we currently work, where we currently aren't working, and the scope of that. So we'll put our details in the question in the chat. But yeah, is it do we usually work with smaller charities? And there's a secondary question that kind of links into that about sort of working with volunteer centres as well.
Yeah. So we work with all different size charities. So some very small grassroots and some much larger. And we work with that charity looking at the role of time credits and where it's best placed. So I can see the question is about 300 volunteers at the theatre. That we work with that size organisation who's recognising that number of people through time credits. But I mentioned earlier that we just started working with the National Trust in Wales, and we're doing a sort of almost a sort of test of how time credits can support them. So obviously they have quite a traditional approach to their volunteering, and if you become a volunteer of the National Trust currently, your onboarding process will be a considerable piece of work, and some of the work that they're doing at the moment is looking at how they could create more ad hoc, informal, flexible volunteering opportunities for people, and they're looking, and we're working with them to put time credits in that mix. So it might not be for everything that they do, but we're testing time credits in that sort of informal offer. So you know, we sometimes work with charities that time credits will be part of something they do rather than it's part of everything that they do. So I think that's where the individual conversations are key to think about how it best works for you. And again, if it's then down to cost, we would cost that up appropriately according to, you know, what you're looking to achieve. And I think I talked already about the volunteer centres. We work with them. We're keen to work with more. We see ourselves very much as part of the sort of landscape of volunteering in the UK, and we're best placed when we work best when we work in partnership with other people. So working with those other sort of infrastructure organisations and developing those partnerships is key. We don't tend to go and work in an area on our own. We want to work with others to work together to deliver sustainable communities. Any last questions before we close this room?
Just well, everyone has the last minute. Just want to big thank you for all the questions and sort of conversation over the last hour. It's been sort of really nice being able to sort of talk about tempo and time credits with you, and there's some really interesting sort of comments and questions that came out of it. So thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time.